Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com. We're doing the day after. I'm back in the saddle. Fun to talk about the game with y'all, and it's going to be a good time. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, because, guys, we got another game week to talk about, and then maybe another, and maybe another. Should be a good time. But we have a Aggie game, an Aggie win, back-to-back wins in the rivalry. 13 years apart. Who cares about the small details? Back-to-back wins in Kyle Field. A lot of fun. But before we keep on going, got to make sure everybody knows that this week, head to Inside Texas. We still have this sale going on. Looks a little bit different, but the same principle. $1 for 7 days of access. You're not going to want to miss out. Charlie, we got signing day Wednesday. Portal's about to open. SEC championships next Saturday. Time to load up on sleep as best we can, but we got a great game to talk about. Roaster, thank you for chiming in, and Roaster doing exactly what your username says. James figured you'd be wearing a mask after that score prediction. You're the only one. The only one.
We'll talk about that.
Man. Well, I'm going to bring up the stats from this game real quick, and let me try to zoom in to make sure I can get everything as best as possible. But one of the big things about this game that may not be reflected in the stat sheet, and Charlie, I'm curious if you noticed this. Did you ever see Texas do the silent count?
I didn't see any silent count whatsoever.
I asked this to Gunnar Helm, and I think even Jake Majors talked about it. They did the same clap count for the entire game, the go on the snap. And, there were times when there were, I think A&M kind of, at least on the opening script, read that snap count pretty well. But I think that also speaks to just confidence in the players, the system, and everything. And that's one of the more impressive things to me from that environment, to see and hear that they would do that, think they were good enough to do it, and then go out and actually do it.
Yeah, I'm agreeing. I think we made so much about, and everybody did, about the atmosphere. It's going to be so loud. Will they be able to hear the whole now? How are they going to get prepared for this game and kind of go out there and execute without a silent snap count? I didn't see anybody tap Majors like, hey, snap the ball. I didn't see any of this. So, it's pretty amazing, but just testament to them just really putting in the work and trusting in one another.
I was there, and so what they say about that press box swaying is true. It gets loud there. I'm curious, what did it seem like, James, at least coming through the TV? Was there a point where you could tell maybe the atmosphere changed once Texas started getting ahead?
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the game, hence why I made my dumb score prediction. I apologize. I take full responsibility for that one. It felt shaky. And then when Justin texted all of us, he said it's been shaking since the entrance. It looked crazy, right? It felt like almost like a Penn State-esque entrance, but A&M is A&M and not Penn State, right? So by quarter two, you could just tell it felt like the life, at least on TV, looked like it had been sucked out of the building. I felt like they could have had F-16s in there, and it's still A&M. They figure out to blow it. I mean, there's allegations of pump and sound. Gunnar Helm texted out, "What noise?" which was hilarious. So, I mean, I just think, like I said, they could play, there could be an earthquake going on in Kyle Field. They'll still find a way to lose to Texas at home. But
so my big takeaway, one of them, I've got a few. We got a lot going on inside Texas, and Coach, you had a great What We Learned article. Again, the silent count, that was my takeaway, and that it just shows the faith Sark and Kyle Flood and everybody has in this offense. Charlie, what were some of your big takeaways that you both wrote about or maybe didn't make the article?
The offensive line dominating. Like, okay, no more waiting on this offensive line to wake up and get a push. Like 2 weeks in a row now, they have dominated the line of scrimmage and just opened up running lanes. Like, I got bad knees, but I probably could get like 2 or 3 yards running through some of those holes and lanes that they were opening. I was happy to see that. I was happy to see Quinn. I would say Michigan Quinn. That's the first time I've seen him like step up, look to run. Right, it didn't deliver. One of the receiver came open, right? Once the defender committed. So I was happy to see that. And then Trey Wisner, man. Oh my gosh. Like, he just bounces off people. Like he absorbs hits, bounces off, keeps his balance, and continues to like get yak. And so it's like this team is hitting its stride, right? Offensively. Right at the right time, right before SEC championship and playoffs. So that's what I was really, really happy to see.
James, what were some of your big takeaways that you had from Saturday night?
Well, exactly what Coach said. It was the O-line. That was the reason I picked. I thought we were going to lose that game, is I was worried it would mirror Georgia up front, right? But with the guys like York and Scorton, it just never happened. I don't know. And the one thing we were talking about on the Wednesday night show as we were kind of previewing was this is a solid run defense, and that front is what you got to worry about. The back half, the big plays. We did see some big plays break off, but the fact that, we almost, averaged over 5 yards a carry, damn near, and that Trey Wisner it wasn't even necessarily he was doing anything too crazy. There was just open holes, like Coach said, like, you could have just fallen forward for 3 yards, which was the craziest thing to see, even early on in the year. Before the Georgia game kind of rattled them, and that was more pass pro. Early on in the year, we were like, run blocking is pretty good, but the pass blocking is where they shine, right? But that run blocking was exactly what we wanted to see all year. Getting up to the second level, creating looks for Trey Wisner where he can just, kind of pick the right hole, and he can 10-yard runs. I mean, some of those drives mirrored Bryant Denny 2023 when they just ran all over and people were like, whoa. That was the Texas coming out party, kind of a profile game of, hey, this is not flashy Sark anymore. This is Texas being able to run it down your throat and win the game in 5 to 7 different ways, and they're still going to come out victorious like the best teams do.
Coach, when you think about running, and the offensive line is worthy of so much praise, I think Gooseby deserves his own highlight a little bit later, but Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, I mean, all four of that, left guard to right tackle had a good game. But when you think about Wisner just finding ways to keep moving forward in his own unique style, like you think of Bijan, and Bijan would just be able to make you miss anywhere, even if there was penetration in the backfield. Jonathan Brooks, I mean, remember when Le'Veon Bell was at his peak? Remind me of that. But like with Wisner, it seems like he's always moving a little bit forward, and then he goes in a way that's different than Brooks. That, even if the offensive line, he is finding the exact right hole the offensive line seems to be putting on the field every time. Oh.
Cut off. Sorry, Wisner's a very, very patient runner. It's so funny. You said Le'Veon Bell. Sometimes he picks his hole like Le'Veon. He waits, and then he just kind of, even though he's moving forward, he's very patient. He can find the cutback lane, or he'll press the hole that he's supposed to hit. He just waits and lets his offensive line, his blockers, get in front of him. So he lets them set it up, and then he hits the hole. So I don't know. Maybe because he's not the fastest back, he's just not trying to spam the R2 button like other running backs and just go full speed, right? He actually waits and is patient, and then he just kind of slips through there, man. It's like, he gets up on you. He's bigger than what you think he is. He's stronger than what you think he is, right? And he just, even though he's not some blazing burner, he has like these long strides, man. He just kind of gallops. I can't think of a running back to kind of compare him to, but it's just like his own unique type of style, man. It works for him.
And then look, you got this from Griffin. Wisner at 8-12 on the season with 2+ games to go. I take a view of stats. It's like, hey, it should be the regular season. I know the NCAA added bowls a long time ago, and now that the playoffs expanded. But hey, man, like to go from running back 3 and now get 8-12, yeah. James, like it just speaks to the development you've seen from that run game in so many different aspects.
Well, yeah, like all the talk when we were, at practice in summer camp, I guess, or preseason, was obviously CJ Baxter going down. Them losing not 1 but 2 running backs, right, before the season even starts. So, there's going to be a ceiling on Texas as a team because they're not going to be able to run to an elite level. Then Trey Wisner goes and almost busts 200 yards in a big rivalry game and busts 158 on my boys in blue. Like it's a testament, I think, to the culture and the fact that these guys are talented. Trey Wisner wasn't the biggest recruit in the world, but it's just a development thing. And he's and CJ Baxter's been there and been a mentor, and we read that thing in the Players Tribune, what CJ was saying. to his guys and how he's been there for those guys. And, they talked to Jonathan Brooks a lot, they've said. So, I mean, I think it's just really Texas is kind of building that running back culture again. We've seen that in the defensive back room where Jade talks to guys like Michael Huff, right? So, I mean, I think it's just getting back to that where Texas has a physical run game. The development has been great. And it's just Trey Wisner. He was slow coming on. We weren't really sure, it was like Jaden Blue or Trey Wisner who will be leading the team. And, Jaden Blue is doing good in his own right and what he does great. But Trey's just become that kind of, as Coach was saying, you can't really describe it. It's kind of this like eclectic, eccentric style of running where he's like a mix of this guy and that guy. And then next thing you know, I mean, he's running for 6 yards a carry in major games. So I think it's just testament to development and the culture and just the coaching in this, in this program.
Yeah.
Before we keep going, going to get a quick word in for our sponsor. Knock this out. We'll do that with Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Thank you to Andre for that. I think we do need to talk about the quarterback because Ryan Nelson brings this up a little bit. And it's a fair point, but there are a lot of guys and a lot of people in the comments asking and wanting to talk about Trevor Goosby. Roaster got committed by Herbstreit and Fowler. A lot of it stems from Kelvin Banks. What's the update on Banks? Steve Sarkisian said, and this is just the way Sarkisian talks about things, had an ankle. From my perspective watching it, it looked like he just got hit hard. What he did, I don't want to say rolled up because I don't think he got rolled up. And you don't really walk off an Achilles injury unless you're Kobe Bryant. So it just looks like he got hit really hard on that ankle. Is that what y'all saw maybe on the TV screen?
Yeah, I didn't see him get rolled up on anything. Maybe it's like a deep bone bruise around the ankle. Maybe that's what it is, right? He put a boot on just to be protective of everything, but I didn't see him get it twist or anything or get rolled up on. So I was curious to know what happened. Yeah,
it was and granted, hey, when things happen and you think Kelvin Banks wants to play in that game, must have been of an extent where they didn't want to risk anything more. Right. But they were able to trust Trevor Goosby. And I think Jake Majors had a really good point after the game. He said, if you're on the travel roster, we expect, there to not be a drop-off. And James, there wasn't. He was the best pass protector, according to Pro Football Focus. He was the best pass protector on the team yesterday. And, aside from one false start, man, he played a nearly flawless game in Kelvin Banks' place.
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. The Pro Football Focus rating him as the 4th highest sophomore in the country, and he was the highest rated pass pro, right? In a major game, he's a true sophomore coming in there. He's not played any meaningful snaps, right? And there was no.
That was his first career action on the road.
Oh, first road game. There we go. Even better, right? And so this is kind of what we're talking about with the change in culture, right? Where Texas has these bodies. And that is one thing people are worried about for next year, right? Obviously, you're going to have Arch, you're going to have all these weapons, but the O-line may be completely gone. Cam Williams might be gone too. So it's just it's honestly just a great thing to see that he got to come in. We obviously won't know much about KB until, the next week or so. Probably honestly, knowing the way Sark kind of keeps things bottled up is, I would guess, maybe the injury report officially getting released. But yeah, great props to Goosby. It's awesome. We saw the false start, and then other than that, he was buttoned up, played really good on his side. So,
and it's one of those things where we all know that Kelvin Banks is heading to the draft. He won't say it, which, hey, to his credit, that's part of being a good teammate. But Sark said it way back in July, so we all know. But man, Charlie, that makes you really, really confident about what even if you have wide wholesale changes on the offensive line, like could happen, makes you confident at least one of those spots is going to be in pretty darn good shape.
Yeah, definitely. So I got to see Trevor. I got to see him in spring game. I didn't realize he was walking back to his dorm, and I didn't recognize him. I was like, wait, Trevor? He was like, yeah. I was like, good God. Then I saw him again this summer when he was at home working out before they reported back to fall camp. And he was like, yeah, I'm ready. You can just kind of see it, see him mature, see his body mature mentally. He's a different looking kid. And I was like, this kid gets his shot. He's going to surprise a lot of people. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you don't want to compare him to Banks or say, hey, he's next up. But when I saw him, I was like, yo, no, Trevor Gooseby is going to be the next. And I ain't trying to put too much on him, but he has a chance to be the next left tackle at Texas that gets drafted high. So I feel confident, super confident about Trevor.
Yeah, I was a little not skeptical, but I was like, oh, we got to watch this because Shamar Stewart, Shamar Turner, Nick Scourton, like those are good defensive linemen. They have been exploited in recent weeks, but that doesn't mean they're chopped liver. Man, didn't surrender to pressure. Like he's just someone who had a phenomenal game, worthy of a lot of respect. Check Inside Texas a little bit later for some insight on what Gooseby was able to do. And then somebody asked real quick update on Blue. He fell really hard. Kind of looked like he was favoring the upper body. And Charlie, I don't think we saw him again after that.
Yeah, I saw the tackle kind of came down. I didn't know, like he reached for his shoulder or upper arm. It's kind of saw him going to the sideline, kind of squeezing. Maybe almost reminded me of the Colt McCoy, like I can't feel my arm type of thing. But I wasn't really sure, what the extent of the injury was. I'm sure we'll find out, I guess, later on during the week.
Yeah, we'll probably get. So, I mean, Sark has a conference today. I don't know how much detail he'll give. He's probably got his normal press conference Monday. Wonder what the SEC stuff is going to be like. We'll get a little bit to the SEC because I see some questions in there. But, when you see guys leave the game and don't come back, it says enough about what's happening there, at least on the field, but doesn't at least pretend too much about going forward in recent weeks, at least as far as our experience. Let's see. Here we go. I like this one. Our offensive line's better. All week I'm arguing with my friends about – I guess A&M. Yeah, A&M's defensive line. I knew we would dominate, give Flood his due, and stop doubting. Hey, here's the thing. I don't really doubt the offensive line. And we can kind of use this to parlay into the next topic. Like, if you looked at A&M stats, and I think Homer and Ian and Paul went through this on the channel, like, they had been run at pretty well. But they have some pass rushers. And when you have your second tackle, you're a little skeptical. Quinn Ewers really managed pressure well, I think, all night. He had one of his better games, I think, this season. I think we can probably keep going with a talk about Quinn. Like, he had one easily, like, making good decisions, escaping the pocket well.
Yeah.
It's just 2 negative plays can undo 10. And that's, James, it's kind of the Quinn Ewers that you live with at this point.
Yeah, I know. The first half, I was so hyped. I was like, oh, he has just totally silenced them. He's looking – because there's been a lot of doubters, right? I'm like, oh, Quinn's just hitting the mute button on all the media, everybody, the fans. And that first – they're finally going deep. He's maneuvering in the pocket. It looked exactly like he did in Ann Arbor, that one throw to Helm where then Helm hurdles. And then the second half happened, right? There's no reason they shouldn't have won that game 31-0, right? But – unfortunately, it's just a couple plays. And now you saw against Georgia a couple plays, field position, that can change the entire game, right? We're obviously happy that you walk into Kyle Field and get a win. That's a true SEC win. That's tough by any means necessary. But that's something you look towards, like, hey, Quinn, he put together a really good half, but you've got to learn how to close games. He can't be putting the ball in harm's way. You really shouldn't be quarterback scrambling like that, giving yourself up to take a hit like that from behind. So there was just and that's in the red zone too, right? So, I mean, there's a couple bad things there, but overall his composure in the first half was great after he was, they were a little rattled, like we were talking. We think they had a good response to the scripted first couple drives, and then he settled into his zone. And then, yeah, like you said, we saw just a little bit of the uncertainty, a little bit of the bad decision-making, but all in all, I'd say promising, because that first half was the best he has played since the injury in terms of how he looked and how, like, just the command, not letting the outside noise affect him whatsoever. So it's promising, and there's some things to look at, but obviously that it's good that Sark can, on a win, point out some things. Hey, we still got to do X, Y, and Z. But really, his pocket presence overall was quite good, and that was the biggest room of improvement that he needed.
I think before we look at the ins and outs of his game, like, you really have to give him a lot of due credit for. You could tell he wasn't right. And hey, if he's going to go out there and play, you gotta be out there and be able to perform. And I think Sark, he said post game, like, I challenged Quinn on Thursday on Thanksgiving, like, hey, you got to go ahead and make sure that you get out there and show me you can play. And he did, and he was able to perform. And I honestly, like, when you think about that interception, that one play, okay, tip passes happen. But there have been a lot of tip passes by Quinn Ewers. Like, that's just something that we've seen over and over again. So, like, you look at the play and you're like, it happens. But you look at the body of work and you're like, okay, we're used to this. How do you fix it? All in all, like, in the fumble, yeah, you got to get down. You got to know your limitation. You got to secure the football if you're going to be going that route. And he tried, just didn't do it in time. But the man still played winning football for about 95% of the snaps, I feel like. And then even so, Charlie, we got to see the fun part for that first touchdown. You see a little bit of what the future could be in Arch and doing the kind of Manning nasty face too.
Yeah, I love that. But to speak about Quinn just a little bit, I thought the missed sack by A&M gave him some confidence when he ran down the sideline or he stepped out of bounds. I thought that boosted his confidence and that really helped him out. But man, putting Arch in, I love to see the read option. I was like, okay. And then he ran through a defender. It was kind of like, yeah, Arch just, that's a big kid. And so I thought that was more of a statement than anything. Like, yeah, we won on fourth down. We actually converted our fourth down. Not only did we convert it, we scored. And I think that it took them out of a little bit early. It took a shot there. But I love to see it because now defensive coordinators got to step in now. Like, okay, if Arch is in, we got to really prepare for him keeping the ball. And I know Sark is not known for running his quarterbacks, but Arch has that ability where you can't really deny it. And I'm not ready to call him Tim Tebow, Chris Leak 2.0 just yet, even though I wrote about that just a little bit. But you have a chance to put both of them in the game and have teams prepare for both. That's a really, really dangerous situation. And so, but I love to see it, though. In a rivalry game like this, man, I loved it. And he made the face just like his uncles, so that was perfect.
I don't know about you guys, but I kind of felt like when they brought Arch in, that sort of settled Quinn down. After Arch went in and got hyped and you saw Quinn getting excited for him, I think that really let the guys know, oh, like we're fine. We're in control of this game, because Quinn was a little shaky. Like you said, that first run got him a little bit. But even on that first run, I noticed he was a little hesitant and he ended up accidentally stepping out of bounds when he could have housed it, a la Colt McCoy against A&M. But, yeah, I just think that's a new wrinkle in the offense that people are not going to know what to do with, because Arch, you hear the last name Manning, you assume he's a statue, 6'4", 230, right? And that's something people are kind of whispering about, hinting about. I know J.D. Pickell was saying, what if they start bringing him in for run packages? And they did. So that's something that, that's something that defensive coordinators are going to be worried about, because he's not only is he 230, 6'4", the dude can move. So it provides a new dynamic. And I think it settles down Quinn in some of those situations like that, just being like, all right, Arch went in, he ran, and something positive happened. Things are going to calm down. You see Arch getting inside the young guy, making that, stank face after he scores. But yeah, I think that was all in all a great thing for the offense and good sign for the future.
And here's the thing. It was a wrinkle for this game. It may be becoming a necessity, because Jaden Blue, left the game, didn't come back. Who knows what's going to happen with him? Could be bad, could be good, could be one game, could be rest of the year. But you have to find creative, and I don't know, like, don't take that as me saying it's dire straits, but like at a certain point, like your running back room is depleted no matter how you look at it at this point. Trey Wisner's getting 30 carries a game, in part because he is, the workhorse, the guy who can close that game out. But there's also a limited amount of guys you can trust there. You got to find other ways to put the football in the end zone. And if you got number 16, you can use it. Sark did it with Roschon. He said it wasn't something they were big on, but they still used it to success. They did the Savion Cat last year. Like, it's in the playbook now. They can find a place for it. And hey, if Quinn if that's something that offenses have to think about, sooner or later he's going to pass the ball. Like that's what he's best at, Like that's what he's really here at Texas to do. And I think maybe this was a lull to sleep game for that aspect of it, as opposed to and maybe deploy that a little bit down the road. Yeah, Master A. Stark's going to use Arch for a nice setup for a long ball versus Georgia. So might be something to look at. Anything else on Quinn or the offense? I think the defense is next up. I see some comments there. Anything else on Quinn or the offense?
No, I just want to point out I was happy to see the receivers kind of sit down when he did get pressure instead of running their routes. After the first drive where Helm could have kept running, after that they started to settle. Like, okay, he's getting pressure. Let me kind of sit down and give him a target to throw to. So I was good. I was happy to see that. That was perfect. I wanted to see that before the game.
I think a lot of what we thought about the A&M linebackers and that they're good going forward. And man, Torian York, when he's attacking, was pretty impressive. Torian York playing coverage was, not the same player. So I think they did a good job of really attacking over the middle and doing that a little bit more in this game, knowing that there was some problem with the linebackers. Matthew Munoz, can we give PK some credit? I myself doubted him over the years, but he has elite defense for sure. Yeah, I think all the detractors have gone away at this point. He somehow avoided a lot of the criticism last year. It went on the secondary coaches, but now they're all getting praised because of the improvement in the secondary. You got guys like Anthony Hill playing at elite level, and then he's getting the most out of Trey Moore, Colin Simmons, Alfred Collins, Vernon Broughton. Like, I don't think people are hesitant to give PK credit anymore now, are they, James?
No, I mean, I asked Jade about it because I think he got his first sack of the year, probably his only sack of the year against Arkansas, and it was kind of a new look. And I asked him, and Jade said it as plainly as you can. He just goes, "That man's a genius." He was like, "He makes it so easy. I trust him. He's a mastermind." Like, this was the guy, the defensive mind behind Washington making a playoff run back in the day with Jake Browning. So yeah, PK. I didn't realize he really had that many doubters but I forget it's Texas fans. But it's just all in all, it's a great defense. They finally got right. Blake Gideon said he would be better. I think people were optimistic, and then they have exceeded expectations this year. So I think without a doubt, we can anoint them best defense in the country now.
Charlie, you're on the spot on this.
I see. Look, my biggest thing with this, I love PK4. Is the no ego thing. Anybody else probably, I don't need a co-defense coordinator. I don't need help. I got this. But the fact that you let Coach Nansen come in here, have that title or whatever and help shows that he's just dedicated to winning and improving. And it doesn't matter about name recognition, right? And then see all these guys up for the Bros Award, which he should be, right? But he doesn't care. He just wants results. He just wants to win. And to me, that says a lot about his character, who he is. And it says a lot about the entire team, the kind of culture that they have built around Texas. With guys like him. So to me, that stands out more than anything because he just cares about the bottom line, which is winning.
Going back to something I said earlier, the three assistants that were kind of like under the microscope most in the offseason, Gideon, Joseph, and Baker for different reasons, but for curiosity reasons, I feel like what are we getting from this guy? But Joseph and Gideon from Sugar Bowl, and yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Jahdae Barron's probably going to win the Thorpe. Michael Taft is a former walk-on who's going to be an NFL player at this point. Jelani McDonald went from athlete to really great safety.
Yeah.
And Manny Muhammad is tested about as often as Jahdae Barron.
Yeah.
So all those guys, and you give credit to Jalen Gilbo. He's attacked, but he does well. Scotty Hazelton, the analyst, deserves some praise there. But those were the two of the three coaches had a lot of questions, and it was critical questions, not curious questions, answered in full. And then Kenny Baker, it's, okay, all we know is this guy had Christian Wilkins in his room in Miami, and Mike McDaniel likes him. Yeah. Then he comes in here and, really helps Vernon Broughton, Alfred Collins, and those transfers, Jermaine Lele, Bill Norton, to have really strong years, and Alex January seeing snaps. So the three defensive assistants under PK, who deserves a lot of credit for it as well, have really been able to step up in their areas. Anything else y'all want to hit on the defense? You know what they do have, James, is they have attitude. Like you look at guys like the 5 stars, there's some attitude from those guys.
Yeah, I mean they have almost the like blue collar mentality of a 3-star. Like the way Colin Simmons felt very disrespected. We know Anthony Hill feels disrespected about the Butkus Award, but I my bad, and Eric's gonna get mad at us for not saying Vernon Broughton. Vernon Broughton getting 2 sacks. I mean, come on, a fumble recovery. That was awesome. You know, it's been Alfred Collins has been balling out these past few games. He had kind of his national, spotlight game against Arkansas, and then now it's Vernon Broughton after T. Sweat and Murphy leave. I mean, this D line is great, and they do have attitude. They pride themselves the way they're talking. We don't want anybody in our paint. We don't want anybody scoring in the red zone. I mean, it's just the attitude is insane. To think this was used to be Big 12 team getting when Sark got there, 48-41 in Red River. Not anymore, and it's awesome.
Let me find this quote from Anthony Hill, because when they saw the 4th and 1, they're like, okay, we're ready for this. Y'all are about to bring it. Anthony Hill had a quote. Where is it? Okay, when they said they were lined up on the 4th and 1, Anthony Hill said, "We were excited because we feel like nobody's getting in the end zone with us. If you think you're going to just run right at us for 1 yard, you've lost your mind."
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love that.
There's
awesome.
a lot of confidence on that defense. One quick thing, I think, on the third phase, because we got to talk a little bit about Georgia again. Can we talk about special teams? If we lost that game, we'd be killing them right now. I know. Hey, here's the thing. I think if you look at Bert's career, his average is going to be right here. His 2023 is going to be up here, and his 2024 is going to be right here. That's just kind of the life you live as a college kicker. But he is
Ryan
not.
Day.
Go ahead.
Ask Ryan Day. College kicker.
Hey,
Yeah.
there was a couple questions. Maybe we hit that at the end about Ryan Day. But Charlie, was the punt block a schematic thing or an assignment thing?
It was an assignment. Like, everybody's trying to get downfield and go cover, but you got to block first. You got to hold at least 2 seconds. Like, you got to block before you can go rush, right, and go down and field the kick. And it was really, to me, it was just an assignment thing. Just either you set them up, you avoid, and you're trying to go, or you have to block and go. Either one. But I don't know what the call was, but it's like he rarely blocked the guy. He came off the edge. People just not stepping and doing their assignments, man. It's like special teams is very, very important. And you don't realize it until something like that happens, right? Like, you need to pay attention to special teams meeting. You need to go just as hard in special team practice periods as you do during offensive defensive periods. And so little things like that, it can cost you. And to me, it's just like, if it's not one thing, it's another special teams. And I kind of wrote about it. Like, I don't know if it's going to be a bad fielding decision, a holding call. Then we got blocked, punt, and missed field goals. It's like, oh, okay. What's going to be next game?
It was a weird thing where it's just like, you see a guy run free like that, and it's not because I don't know. I'm trying to think, because there's just like 2 guys over there, and he gets unblocked. Like, I don't know if that was a before the snap thing or if somebody on the field missed it. But even so, with the punt team, like, I guess Michael Kern got dinged up somehow earlier in the year. He just doesn't have a strong leg, and we're so used to good punting and field flipping, whether it's from Dixon or Trejo or Dicker himself, or Sanborn last year, that now, like, to not see 45 each time and to see maybe 40 is a little bit alarming. But everything else on special teams seems like it's in good enough shape. Like, Silas Bolden made all the right decisions yesterday, which this channel celebrates. So I mean, special teams it's weird to see it as still a work in progress. But I wonder, when that's going to be something that really affects them. Oh yeah, we already got that one. Trying to think anything else. One more from Ryan Nelson. Let's talk a little bit about Georgia. How much did y'all watch the 8 overtime game?
I watched every minute of that one. That was that was exciting.
That was a total coup.
Well, here Georgia Tech had an opportunity to win the game and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know it's almost cliche, but Coach, if you're on the road and you have a chance to go for 2 and win, you do it. Except if your name's Brent Key, or is it Brent Pry?
Brent Key and Brent Pry's at Virginia Tech.
Okay, unless you're Brent Key or Billy Napier. Like, they should have gone for 2. They should have got out of there and won and had a – because what are you going to do, run Haynes King into the line anymore?
Yeah. I was saying go for 2 because I felt like Georgia Tech had way more creativity than in Georgia in the 2-point plays or anything. So I was like, go for 2. What do you have to lose? Just go for it. You got the momentum. They haven't really just stopped you. Come up with something creative and go for 2 and win the game. What do you have to lose? And so when he did that, I was like, okay, this is not the personality of this head coach. Usually he goes for 2, right? That's who he is. He's aggressive. But to see him kind of dial back, I was like, okay, he's afraid to go out and win the game, right? He's hoping to win. Now he doesn't want to go take the win. So he gave Georgia just a chance, man.
Is there anything as far as what Georgia Tech did? Because their offensive style probably is akin to Vanderbilt's, closer to that than anything. Is there anything y'all think that Texas can take away from what Georgia Tech did in attacking Georgia?
I say 2 things, but I don't know if we're going to do one. And that's run the quarterback with a lot of mid-read option. The other is really identifying where the pressure's coming from and just sitting down, because Georgia Tech tight end and receivers found so much soft space in their zone blitzes that they were wide open, getting chunk yardage like that. And so I think we can take advantage of that the exact same way, as long as we identify where the pressure's coming from and they're able to connect with those guys right across the middle or out to the flats when the pressure comes. I think we can beat them that way in attack.
Yeah, and before it's Justice Haynes, I believe, the running back for Georgia Tech. Before he got hurt, he was busting some solid runs. So, I mean, it's just Georgia, they should have lost that game. Personally, I don't know if the fix was in on that one, but I think they should have lost that game for sure. But Georgia Tech showed a lot of weakness in Georgia. They just looked like all in all better team in that first, 3 quarters. They were running well. I mean, maybe that is a good sign for Arch on the quarterback run packages, but also Quinn decides to tuck it. Even in the first game, if he had tucked it on a few, there's openings. There's openings for him to get 8 to 10 yards on, very often. It's just kind of Georgia's been this enigma all year. They're kind of bipolar, similar to Alabama. Georgia, before they played us, played Mississippi State close and won by 7 against a team has not won an SEC game. I don't know what to think about Georgia, because as long as Texas doesn't come out and shoot themselves in the foot, there's a reason they are a 2.5-point favorite. But I'm nervous. That's kind of why I picked A&M this week, because I was nervous about Georgia, and then that ended up, and then I think I projected my nerves from Georgia onto the A&M game. But this one, I think it's a little more confident. The odds of beating them 2 times in a row. Georgia's definitely vulnerable there. They're ready to be got. It just depends on how it's really is Texas versus Texas and how they perform mentally.
You're right. I would say that Georgia's better versus traditional offenses and most athletes are. They don't want to read keys. With the triple option, you got to read keys and be patient. Those guys just want to attack because they're athletic.
GT doesn't run the triple option.
I'm saying with all the motion, with the read option, like you got to.
I would say the reverse stuff actually worked against them this time. Yeah.
And so I feel like if we can mirror that and use it some kind of way, confuse them. As you saw, what's the best pass rusher? Was it 11? He was playing off linebacker for against Georgia Tech versus us. He was on the edge just rushing, where he's allowed just to be an athlete. When he's back, got to read. He's not as effective, right? And so we can make him that same way versus us. I think we got a good chance.
One thing I'm trying to see if I can find as fast as possible, maybe I got to find this, is what the average yards to go for Georgia Tech was on their third downs, because what Georgia is great at doing is running pressures from fronts you wouldn't expect that type of pressure to come from, or just making the picture so muddy for quarterbacks right in front of their face. And if you're on schedule against them, like, you'll be able to maybe get opportunities to go ahead and be able to, make sure Georgia has to probably play you straight up.
Right.
On third downs, let's see, I think it is. Okay, Georgia Tech's average distance to go on third down was 5.7 yards. And if I can talk for a second, I can probably find what Texas' average distance to go on third down was. And I bet it was probably about like 9 or 10 when thinking about that. So, like, getting ahead of the sticks, I mean, it's every offense.
Yeah.
You want to live that way. You want to make sure that it's something that you're able to get ahead of the sticks. And I got it pulling up right now if the thing would load, and I'll figure out what the average third down distance for Texas was.
Yeah, I mean, if the field position was equal in that game, we saw Georgia had one real drive. They had one real drive where they actually had to go down the field and score. They put together one. The rest of them, they're in plus territory. Sometimes even at, 13 on their first touchdown, right? So it's like, that's what odds makers are telling you, is if the playing field's equal and they play a profile game, Texas plays how Texas plays and Georgia plays how Georgia plays, Texas is about a field goal better. And I think that's what all of us would agree on that. It just depends on, is Michael Kern going to get blocked? You know, what's going to, you know, is he going to have a punt block? Is something crazy like that? Is Bert Auburn going to miss a field goal? It's just kind of, that's the stuff you can't account for when you're talking about, 21-year-old, 22-year-olds playing football.
That the average third down distance for Texas against Georgia was 6.5. So almost a full yard, and a lot more opportunities too. So should be a fun one. We're going to have a lot to talk about this week when we get to the SEC championship game. Of course, head to Inside Texas. You can get 7 days of access for just $1. Got a little bit different deal, but you're going to want to head over there and check it out. We'll be back tomorrow. Coach, are you going to be on with Homer?
Yep.
Eric, we'll have Monday live. We'll have Tuesday recruiting. Wednesday live. We'll have it all. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel powered by InsideTexas.com.